everyone. My name's Michelle Vineker. If you don't know me already, I am an autistic blogger for my own blog series called the World of Autism, and it's been going on for the past couple of years now. But since last year, I have been introducing a guest interview series as well, not just about with sharing my own experiences on the journey of being on the autism spectrum, but also about with sharing from the world too, from other autistic people to teachers, families, you name it. And I have everybody on here that's sharing their own perspectives and everything. So the guest that I have on here today, she is a teacher. She's not just any kind of teacher. She's a music teacher. And what's really cool about her, she is the second guest that I've had on here who is not from the United States. She currently lives in the United Kingdom. And so I'm so excited to have her on today. Her name is Miss Bella Eli. How you doing?
It's just Bella. Bella. Everybody knows me as Bella, so just Bella.
Is Bella? Okay, got it. Very cool.
Bella.
Got it.
Thank you very much for inviting me, Michelle. I appreciate you taking interest in what I do.
Absolutely. I think it's just like really inspiring, which we'll actually get into this right now, is that what inspired you to become a music teacher?
Well, there were a few factors, I've been a teacher, so not a music teacher, just, a teacher in schools, teaching all subjects and teaching different age groups for 20 years. So that was my career. During these 20 years, I taught in nurseries, in primary schools, high schools, all age groups. And I found out from my first year of teaching that music connected with children with behavior issues or children who were not interested in learning, and of course, autistic children as well. And very soon I ended up with, my colleagues from parallel year groups sending all their autistic children in my classroom. So they would have like 1 or 2 in their classroom, and I'll have 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. So and to be honest, for the first years, I didn't even realize what I was doing differently from my colleagues, because music came so natural. I was not musically trained, absolutely at all. I haven't started my music training as a teacher, but as any child, and training to be a teacher in Romania, where I'm from, it's a requirement to do some music training as well, and along with a little bit of playing an instrument, just basic skills, and this is part of the process of being a teacher, especially a primary or an early years teacher. So it was a requirement. So of course, because I trained musically a little bit in my training as a teacher, I thought I'd use this skill in schools. And as I said, I realized straight away that autistic children were connecting with music so well. So I thought, I'll use music. I'll teach math with music. I'll teach English with music, history with music. I'll do the transitions between the lessons in music, the transitions within the day with little songs. And that kind of assured me a learning environment, very peaceful, even if I had like 8, 9, 10 autistic children in my classroom, on different abilities, whilst my colleagues were still struggling with 1 or 2, because it just became too much. The transitions were not done with the music, for example, like I was doing it, or maybe the transitions were just too much. And anyway, in my classroom, I've just noticed that, and 2 years ago, I've decided, and this, this process of communicating with autistic children in my classroom through music and teaching them through music and assuring a really nice environment and the connection and the bond with me they could establish as well through music. Seeing all of these benefits, 2 years ago, I've just decided to give up to my teaching career and start my music training to become a music teacher. And last year, I've opened my private practice, let's call it this way. Yeah, so that's kind of in short. There were lots of other, things in between, things like seeing how it was just making me sad, forcing a curriculum that was not adequate for autistic children in the schools where I was teaching. It just made me sad every day. And it also required from my behalf such a great effort in planning and delivering the lessons, making sure they are adequate to, if I had like 5 autistic children in my classroom, plus other children with other needs, and then plus the mainstream, the neurotypical children, it just required so much effort and time and planning to plan for each one of them like individually. And still it was not perfect because it was just too much. And every teacher I'm talking to, they all resonate with the story. So I was thinking to myself, oh, wow, why am I doing that? I really love working with autistic children and I really love music. So let's just start doing that. I just gave up and yeah, I've started doing this, which I love. And
that's awesome to hear that, because like it just made me think, like, this actually leads me to another question, but before I get to that, it just, with music, for me growing up, I had a little part of it where in my earlier years, it wasn't like I actually, what did they call it, music intervention and stuff, where I would, it definitely does help when it comes to expression, because that is something that a lot of people with autism do struggle with, is being expressive due to like just with difficulties of like with showing different emotions and everything.
yes,
I feel like music does help with expressing all those kinds of feelings,
yes,
especially a lot of complex feelings that people feel today
yes,
and stuff. And it is very powerful in a way. So we could definitely tell from this that like how much that music can help anybody too, not just for autistic people.
yes.
Now my question is, what got you to specifically want to work with children with autism unlike anybody else? Going
um,
to teach
yeah.
them,
Yes. So again, because I saw like the results from my school, like years and years going, and I've also seen that in the UK, children only spend 1 year with that teacher, and then they move up to a different teacher, and seeing them moving up and getting adjusted to other routines, to another teacher, was really, really hard. And obviously, most of the other teachers didn't use that a little song in between, different transitions in school, or, was not confident to use an instrument, their voice or some drumming rhythms, for releasing some tension and frustration during the day and so on, which I was okay, in the middle of the maths, I would stop and I would say drumming time, and we start releasing some of that, anxiety, frustration, And then surprisingly, they were able to focus back, on there, because they had a little break, of 1 minute and a half, 2 minutes, so important. Yes, so I've also seen that during my years of teaching. And then I just happened to have quite close friends whose children have been diagnosed about like 2 years and a half ago. And they were saying, they asked me, would you like to, please, can you do some, reading interventions, because our children are so behind, and finally we know now why, because they are autistic, and can you please do some writing interventions, some maths interventions? And I was thinking, yes, yes, yes. And then when the children were coming, we ended up doing more singing about that subject,
Right.
And we were ending up making, different songs, little songs, how to write correctly, how to write A, for example, or lowercase a, so that they don't go, all of these things that teachers usually know. They have to form it in a specific way and not go, different circles and stuff. So even, about maths, we were learning multiplication with like rap music, things like that. So I ended up and said to the parents, you know what, I think they need music interventions. I don't think they need maths interventions. And then, of course, some of them, they were not ready, to have reading interventions, because their communication skills, their interaction skills, their social skills were not there. And of course, the child had no interest in reading anyway. So, but they had interest in music. So why not play to their strengths? So I've just started straight away working with them, but doing, music. And in the beginning, I thought, I'd just call myself Sing, Create, Play. I didn't have anything, any name with autism, because I thought, we'll just, sing, we'll create, new lessons plans and new interventions, and we'll play along. But yeah, it doesn't work that way. And I've just started, yeah, like I said, doing music with them, music interventions, and I call them music interventions. And when I now introduce myself and say about what I'm doing, I'm saying I help autistic children, their parents, and the professionals that work with them use musical games. So I put this one first, use musical games, so their children improve their speech and language, their social skills, boost their confidence, and become happier and confident children. Because if they are happy, and confident, with that anxiety, kept under control, they will go into learning. But until then, no maths is going to happen. No.
Yeah, exactly. And also another point that I want to share as well is that about with autism, about with having those special interests. And I know personally friends who are so specialized with music because of how much that they get to express themselves and to just be able to share what they love to play and everything, like what instruments to play, because it gets them to be so creative and everything. So that is just another point that I want to share out that Miss Bella hasn't mentioned yet, that I hope that people will understand. And you also mentioned, Bella, you also mentioned about with music intervention. Can you explain what that is for those who don't know what music intervention is?
Yes, well, I can explain, from my point of view and how I'm doing it, because I think it's different for everybody, every music teacher, and when I started doing, when I opened my practice after I helped my friends, when I opened my practice, I started being like a teacher trained. I started with, the lesson plan for the day and the intervention plan and what I was going to do with the children. When they arrived and the session started, 30 seconds went my way, and then the other minutes until half an hour went their way. Because I realized that was the whole point actually of my intervention is helping and supporting them in the direction that they wanted to go, in what they were interested, as having that holistic approach and teaching them skills for life instead of helping them develop those skills for life, instead of just focusing like I was doing in school. They have to read, they have to get ready to do that, and so on and so forth, to meet the national requirement in, the curriculum and so on. So I've realized with my music interventions from my first session that this is not going to happen. And I started making, like a 6 or a 12 weeks plan. And I would say at the end of these 6 weeks, I would establish a goal with the parent or the carer and say, what would you like? What would the other professionals that are involved, like speech and language therapists or physiotherapists, if they have specific goals for motor skills, I can apply that in my sessions, of course, because instead of trying to draw lots of lines to develop fine motor skills, I can play, the guitar, the keys on the piano, the xylophone, and you have to be very precise when you hit, a xylophone. And we can work on all of those skills in such a fun way, and the entire session being led by the child, and adapting all the time to their needs and to their interests. So technically for me, before I start working with the child, I have a long chat with the parent, asking like for a full history, of the diagnosis. And it's not only the diagnosis, everything what the child is interested in, because if they're, afraid of cows or of horses, there's no point of me, starting with such an interesting song, horsey, horsey, and they don't like horses. So I have to find out, all the details I can, and then target something that's useful and of their interest, like I said before. So that's what I do. And I have like reviews with the parents at the end of those 6 weeks, or at the end of the 12 weeks, and then we have another goal, and then we see how it goes. So it's personalized and individualized for absolutely each child. And I like calling them music interventions and I like thinking that they have a holistic approach and preparing for life. And my main focus for absolutely everything, and that's why it doesn't require much planning from me, like the traditional planning goes, is them to be able to express themselves, exactly what you said. And then, when the movie The Reason I Jump came out, like I can't remember, 2-3 weeks ago, and of course I knew the book, but I have to say that the phrase didn't stick with me that much from the book. But when they've done the trailer and the movie, and he said, the most important thing for me is to be able to express myself, I said, that's it. That's exactly what I want when children are coming, to my music sessions, or when we do them online. I want them to express themselves, because they can't do that at school, especially if they are nonverbal or they build lots of anxiety, or if they are masking. I want them to come, over here, and I have, lots of sensorial props and resources that they can use to express themselves. And when you were mentioning about feelings, I didn't want to interrupt you then, but I can say it now. I have, different emojis. And sometimes when I'm working with a child, for communication skills or for recognizing feelings or expressing themselves, I put in front of them one of the emojis, and I give them a musical instrument, and I say, can you make me a song about that emoji? And you'd be surprised, even if the child is non-verbal and they can't articulate, or even if the child can only say sad with a smile on his face, because he doesn't recognize and he can't he's not there to be able to show it on his face. In the first seconds when you listen to what he wants to play, you might think, this is random. But if he gets to play like 30 seconds to 1 minute that specific song that they are trying on the keyboard or on the guitar, you have the feeling by the end of it, that emotion is expressed, because that autistic child is so able to express with the musical instruments and with the sounds of their voices. They are able to express the feeling that I'm putting in front of them, and it's amazing. And I do believe it's one of the most important things, even for for verbal autistic children, not only for non-verbal ones. It's so important to give them a voice, to give them the sound of a musical instrument, or to give them the sound of their own voice with just noises, and just let them express themselves. And they are able to, because when I change the emoji, they are able to adapt their song to that emoji. So obviously they are just naturally expressing that. Or if I'm putting them a song that is sad, I can see the whole body language that expresses that, even if they don't realize it. And if I change the song, again, you can see that through their body language, not necessarily like on their face, but through their body language, through their eyes. So yeah, it is so crucial, I have to say, for autistic children, music in general, music interventions, music lessons.
Yeah, you brought up a point where the main point that I'm getting from this is that there are other ways of communication. That just because that there is someone who's nonverbal or verbal doesn't mean, like, there are, it's about finding what's best for the child. And what you were saying about with being like what's called a student, what we call it here in the US, it's called a student-centered approach. That's what, and I know because of my own experiences, I work in the schools as a paraprofessional slash teacher assistant. That's how they call it here. And as being an autistic teacher assistant, from my perspectives and stuff, nowadays in the schools, they do a lot more that's more student-centered approach. And that's how it should be. It should be based on that we're guiding and supporting the child based on what they want to learn. Of course that they need the support in that. And yes, intervention is so important, because at the same time we have to teach to the child that what they should follow and in ways to what's going on in the world. And at the same time we should be supporting and guiding them. So that is a good point that I got from your
Yes.
from your glimpse there and your information. It's so appreciated, and for everything that you do today in your own private practice, which actually this leads me to my next question about, so is your private practice, you call it Autism Music Academy, right?
Yeah.
Did you tell?
I've only came up with the name 3 weeks ago, so it's quite new.
Oh, really?
Yes.
Oh, that's cool.
Yes.
What name? What, like? How did that name just come out? Like, you?
I've been looking for a name. I mean, as I said, I branded myself like Sing, Create, Play, and this was on this was like a different story, because I branded this 7 years ago. I worked in a nursery, and some of the children were autistic, and then lots of other ones were learning English as a second language. And because they were like 2 and 3, around that age, maximum 4.5, of course they were coming to nursery with no English, and the autistic little ones were non-verbal anyway. So I was using music and for absolutely everything again, but really everything was a song. And when we had inspections from the county and so on, they even put it in a report that everything is a song, but they put it in a nice way. Everything was really a song. It was like all day long we were doing this, and children were singing to themselves, you know, the instructions, what they needed to do, you know, the ones that were picking up. But still we had the non-verbals and the bilingual children which were, you know, I was in London, so of course like a bigger community in there, lots of bilingual people. So the parents were saying, well, how are we going to learn these songs, because our children are trying to hum them to us and sing them, but we don't know them. And of course some of them, they had no idea, because we were making them on the spot, you know, for that activity that we were doing, for example. So one of the parents had an idea, why don't you record all of these songs and send them to us? So I recorded the songs, I created, you know, Sing, Create, Play, I put this as well. And so I created my YouTube channel and I put that in there. So when 2 years ago I started like my own practice, I said I'll carry on with Sing, Create, Play. I already have subscribers on my YouTube channel. The word will go out there, and I don't know what name I want to have, so I'll go with Sing, Create, Play. But you know, from last year, when I got focused on autistic children and I worked only with autistic children, I said Sing, Create, Play doesn't seem to express what I want to do. And I kept on searching and looking and asking, you know, for advice. How should I call myself? And I didn't like anything, or it was too long, or it was too short, or it didn't express what I wanted to do. And in the end, I have to say that just one evening it just came to me 3 weeks ago. I was about to launch my online course for parents as well. And I was thinking, I'm just going to launch it with no name. I'm just going to call it Bella Ely Music music course. And that's it, for parents of autistic children, because I couldn't think of anything. And then it just came out to me, and I posted it on Instagram. And I asked people, do you like this? And they all said yes. And do you think it suits what I do? And they all said yes. And the children that I work with, I've asked their parents, and they said, wow, we like it. And I said, yeah, I'm going with it. So I went with it with a name. But I think it really expresses what I do, because I do work with autistic children, and that's my main goal. I work only through music, so we are only doing music activities, and it doesn't mean only singing. You know, there's so many other activities that are related to music, you know, like I was mentioning rap music or rhythms, you know. I loved the word academy, because one of my goals is to coach and teach the parents and other professionals to use music at home. And that's what I'm doing through my online course that I launched 3 weeks ago at the same time with the new name.
That's really cool though. Like you're growing your practice, which that's important. And I do want to thank you for what you do, because any way that autistic children are getting impacted, especially through music too. So I thank you so much for what you did and stuff. A lot of people, like everybody should be thankful of any teacher, parent, what, so that, you know, because everybody impacts a child's life.
Yeah.
That it's so important, and to be able to support in any way. So for any parents that want to get their child music intervention, that would be Miss Bello here.
For the people there, thank you.
You're welcome. So to wrap this up, and I always ask some kind of this question at the end for all my guests, and this one's for you, about what advice that you give to music teachers that are working with autistic children. What's your advice?
Can I start with something for parents of autistic children?
That's fine too.
So one of the reasons I wanted to go to train parents to use music at home is because every time when I used to post on social media, about you can do this musical activity with your child, and this would help with this and this and so, parts of development or struggles, and the parents would come back to me and say, oh, I don't have a good singing voice. I don't have a strong voice. I can't play a musical instrument. I would be terrible at doing that. And this is not true, because your child won't care about the quality of your voice, to be honest, and you don't need to be a professional or to play a musical instrument in order to sing to your child, put your shoes on, instead of telling them, put your shoes on, because as soon as you sang to them, singing goes straight away into the brain, and it helps a lot with processing the language, and it will also help of putting, the both sides of the brain together, so the child can, act and finally go and put their shoes on. So I'm a strong advocate for parents, and I keep saying, you only need to learn a few nursery rhymes and make up new songs for everything you do throughout the day with your child, and give instructions while singing. You only need, a few nursery rhymes in order to have successful transitions with your children. So please, parents, start singing. And for music teachers, in general, I know some of them are reluctant in working with autistic children, and I can understand why. I mean, with my program, I don't just get an inquiry from somebody and I can say, oh yeah, when can you come for a trial lesson? When can you come, or can you come tomorrow? It's not working this way. It's part of a preparation process. I have 3 steps preparation process for the child to meet me, either if it's face-to-face or online. So I would say for the music teachers, get information from the parent, or if you see this, get in touch with me and I can tell you about the 3 steps how to approach the child actually before him coming to you, so that they are comfortable, they are not very anxious coming to your lessons, because you actually prepare them in advance following the 3 steps that I'm following to prepare the children to come to my studio. And don't try to push them, don't try to teach them the music and the guitar or the instrument skills, as if they would go for exams and grade and progress in their music career, because the autistic children won't come for this music lessons in particular. They will come, I mean, some of them might, but general, they come because they connect with music in a specific way, and they want that connection, they want that joy, they want to feel what they feel when they listen to the music and when they do the music activities. But sometimes, as trained musicians, we think, oh, they have to learn this skill and that skill and the other skill and the other music skill so that they play better and they do this better. But that's somehow, in the back, I would say. In the front, for autistic children, it's their passion, their interest, their connection with music, that it's in their brain, because it's wired to crave for music, for that steady beat that organizes their thoughts and their mind, and calms them down and soothes them. So that's the main point. So I would say to the music teachers, please work with autistic children as much as you can, but not in the same way like you work with neurotypicals that come and want to pursue, a musical career.
Yeah, that is really great advice, because, it takes, when it comes to working with a child with autism, it takes a lot of, you have to be so personalized, because it's not like a one size fits all kind of approach. It's so personalized and individualized to the child, that's why it's so important about with being more child centered, because that it's more focused on them versus what you're thinking. And that's how the world is today, pretty much, because you have to think from their view, not as much as your own, even though your own is important too to factor, but you have to focus on the child themselves. And another point that I really liked where you were mentioning about engagement with for parents and teachers, make sure that you are engaged with the child and the student, because that they will grow and develop if you're involved, if you're engaged with them through the process, whatever it be, like through just being creative, come up with songs during the day, whatever that's on your mind, just express yourself, that's what the child will model from you. So it's so important. And it was such great advice right there, Bella. Thank you. And I want to thank you for coming on and sharing your experiences as a music teacher. Thank you.
Thank you very much for inviting me. It was a pleasure.
It definitely was a pleasure. It definitely was. So for anybody that hasn't followed me yet, make sure that you follow me as Exceptional Show on Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, Pinterest, TikTok, you name it. And you could also follow my YouTube channel where I have all the guest interviews up as well. And subscribe and follow to my blog, The World of Autism. So thank you very much and have a great day, everyone.